Hello, welcome to Optimizing Your LinkedIn Profile. My name is Valentina Bafunwa, and I am the CEO and founder of Fiat Career Coaching. In today's session, we're going to dive into LinkedIn. And if you don't already have a LinkedIn profile, I guarantee you by the end, you're going to want to sign up. LinkedIn is probably like the best of both worlds. It's your resume come to life, where you're able to share your brand and your story in a way that's creative and uniquely you. In this session, we'll dive into each of the sections of your LinkedIn profile, and I'll show you tips and tricks on truly how to optimize it so that you really stand out from the crowd. I think you'll really enjoy this session and find it very practical, and you get to be creative, so it's a win-win. All right, let's begin. In today's session, we'll talk about how to make a strong first impression through your profile picture, your headline, as well as your cover photo. We'll also talk about how to craft a marketable about and experience section. And I recommend, if you haven't yet taken my resume class, that you should sign up for that. Because if you have a strong resume, filling out your LinkedIn profile will be really easy. And lastly, in today's session, we'll talk about how to maximize LinkedIn once you've already created your profile, because there's a lot you can do with it. So as we begin, I just encourage you to find a quiet place wherever you are and close all extra browsers and put your phone on silent so you can truly be present and have minimal distractions. And you'll also need a notebook and a pen because we'll go through a lot of strategies that you will want to jot down for reference later. Let's begin with a prayer. Would you join me? Lord, grant that I may always allow myself to be guided by you, always follow your plans, and perfectly accomplish your holy will. Grant that in all things, great and small, today and all the days of my life, I may do whatever you require of me. Help me respond to the slightest prompting of your grace, so that I may be your trustworthy instrument for your honor. May your will be done in time and in eternity, by me, in me, and through me. Amen. Do you have a LinkedIn profile? If you don't, I highly recommend you get one. LinkedIn is a great way to widen your professional network. There are over 690 million members currently on LinkedIn, and over 50 million companies currently advertise for positions, as well as share company updates there. And as you can see, about 95% of recruiters and hiring managers actively use LinkedIn to find candidates. In my own experience, I've had recruiters reach out to me through LinkedIn to set up interviews. And I've also used LinkedIn to set up informational interviews with people outside of my network. It's a very, very useful tool that you can use in your job search, and it's free. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, the same is true for LinkedIn. Profiles with photos get more connection requests, more profile views, and more messages. So it's truly worth taking the extra effort to take a photograph. And a couple of tips when you take your picture: you could either take it yourself with a standalone camera, or you can have a friend take it for you. But the most important thing is just to smile, to just be yourself. And who you are will radiate from your picture. These are some pictures of some women that I know, and I just love their picture because it truly is showcasing themselves and they are very confident in their photographs. So I just encourage you to take the time to take your picture and to smile. Another way to make a great first impression is to include a background picture in your LinkedIn profile. And this can be something related to your industry or something with the tools of the trade. It could also be a picture regarding your employer, your city, your state landscape, if that's something that's important to you. Or it could even include a hobby if it's something that you wish to showcase. If you can't think of what to include, it could simply be just a solid color or an abstract texture. You can utilize a website called pixabay.com and really just type in textured background and you'll have sample ones that you can use on your LinkedIn page. If you want to make it a little extra fancy, then you can actually use a website called canva.com where you can add text to your picture and just to really make it pop. So those are some options for you. Another way to make a great first impression is through your headline. Think of your headline like a billboard. And just like you're in your car on the highway and you happen to glance up at a billboard and you just have a couple seconds to register what it says, that's the same with your headline. It is your billboard that essentially summarizes who you are as a professional and the value you can bring to an organization. And I know it's only a couple lines that you have to just share all that information, but rest assured, there are a couple ways to do this effectively. The very first strategy I want to show you is to utilize keywords. Keywords are essentially words that you would find in a job description that highlight the key skills that that candidate must have. So let's say you were looking for a marketing position. Well, then I recommend that you go and read as many marketing job descriptions as you can find, and pick out the words that you see in common, whether it's SSO or if it's analytics or any words that are common to them. If you have that experience in your own professional background, then I want you to include that in your headline. And here's an example of a few of them. So the way that would look would be to first include your field. So here are some examples of some. So like organizational development or data visualization, or you could say education or healthcare. And then in the subsequent sections, you would include the keywords. So for this individual, they put talent acquisition, leadership, change management, or project management, SQL, SQL, trainer, writer, whatever it may be that is critical to the role that you're looking for. Another strategy is to actually utilize and focus on your value or the achievements that you bring and that you've accomplished. And the way that would look is to include your job title, your level of expertise, and then your unique value. So some examples here are executive coach, and I blanked out a couple of key words because these are actual people's headlines and I want to respect their privacy. They're people that I know, and so I know they wouldn't mind, but would just rather block those out. So you could see the job title and then the area of expertise. So nonprofit founder and veteran, executive assistant with 13 years of experience. So these are two strategies and ways to structure your headline. Most people, when they include their headline, they just say their job title and the company that they work for. Although you could do that, everyone else does that. And unless the company you work for is one of the Fortune 500 or the Fortune 100, the recruiter may or may not know what that company is. So the best thing to do is to actually include a word that summarizes the value that you would bring and your level of expertise, because that's what they're looking for. So now I want you to work on your own headline. If you already have one and you want to modify it, consider using strategy number 1. Consider including keywords that are specific to the positions that you're interested in. You can also use strategy number 2 if you prefer that one, where you could include your specific value that you bring or specific achievements that you've achieved that you want to share. So I'll give you a few minutes to work on that now. Now that you have your picture, your background photograph, and a strong headline, the very next step is to add your industry. Profiles with industry selected get 9 times more profile views than those that don't. And think about it this way. Recruiters are trying to find people as quickly as possible, and so they utilize different searches to do so. One way is to search by industry. So ensure that whatever industry you're looking to go into or that you're currently in, just make sure that that's selected. Additionally, also include your current location. There was a study done by Pete Davies, and he's the Senior Director of Consumer Products at LinkedIn. And he said that add in your home-based city makes you 23 times more discoverable in searches. And if you would like to work remotely, then go ahead and include that in the next section that I'll talk about, such as your about section. That way recruiters will know that it's something that you're open to. Now let's talk about how to write an impactful about section. The about section is about you, where you get to share your personality so that recruiters and hiring managers and other professional contacts get a sense of who you are. And don't worry if you don't consider yourself a creative type. There are many ways to do this, and I'll show you a couple examples. So starting off, your about section is really a summary of your professional experience. As you write it, I want you to imagine your reader so that as they are reading it, they are imagining who you are. So write as if you're writing to an actual person. So I encourage you to write in the first person. And also make the first 3 lines count. That's because that's the very first thing that a recruiter reads when they look at your LinkedIn profile. It's your opportunity to highlight your successes, include any specialities, and also a way for recruiters to contact you. On the left is an example of an about section, and it's actually written by a recruiter talking about herself. And in it, she explains what she does. She includes her contact information, her level of experience, and even highlights some awards that she's received. For example, the K-Force Rookie of the Year. So you could definitely do that. When you write your about section, I want you to be thinking about a couple questions. 1, who are you at work or where you worked prior to? What are the core features of and values of your personality that you want to shine through? And what unique perspectives and experiences do you bring? If whatever those are, I want you to include that or have that at the back of your mind as you write your about section. And now I want to share with you one that I stumbled upon that I really liked reading. And I'm sure you're going to recognize who this person is. You probably know who Shaquille O'Neal is. He is a basketball player. He's a movie star. He even has his own album or multiple albums. But I bet you didn't know that he has his own LinkedIn profile. So Shaquille O'Neal is going to teach us a little bit about how to have an about section, because I think he does a phenomenal job. As you can see from his headline, he considers himself a business mogul, former athlete, purveyor of fun. And his fun personality definitely comes out through his LinkedIn profile. So you can read in his about section, he starts off by describing how many seasons that he played in. He talks about how basketball is a part of his life and how he's even been featured as a character in the video games. And then he shares a little bit about his career history, about how he retired from basketball and now he's a tech investor, and that he's released several studio albums, which actually leads to what this first tip is. When you write your about section, tell your career story from where you started to where you are now. That way, a recruiter or hiring manager can get just a bird's eye view of who you are. Tip number 2, highlight your value. Here I'm highlighting Misha. She is a marketing research director. And here she shares where she's worked. She talks about her focus areas of specific keywords, key skills that she has. She shares her quantitative experience as well as qualitative related to market research. And then one thing that I like that Misha does well is that she includes a specialty section at the bottom. And these are specific keywords that you could probably find in a job description for positions that she's hiring for or she's looking for. So we all can't be like Shaquille O'Neal, right? Not all of us are epic basketball players or movie stars. But what we can do is still share what our value is. And so in this activity, I want you to take a few minutes to list 5 to 10 of your key skills and areas of expertise. If you wish to create your about section like Shaquille did, please feel free to do that. I also encourage you, though, to still list your key skills and areas of expertise, because as a recruiter is searching for keywords, we want your profile to come to the surface. So go ahead and take a few minutes to do that. Tip number 3, support your about section with facts and figures. Elizabeth does a really good job with this. In her about section, she plainly lists how many people she's trained, how many reports she's managed, and how many project leaders she's enabled through her work. It makes it very clear for anyone looking at her profile to see the impact that she's had. In your about section, ensure that you do include facts and figures, and there are multiple ways to do this. You can share about a project that you did that saved your company money. You can share what your impact has been with the social media campaign, if that's an area that you're into, or you can share where your work has been featured, whether it's been in a local magazine or online, or you could share more quantitatively the amount of work that you've done, or any awards that you've accomplished or that you've received. Anything that allows whoever's reading your profile to know who you are and what you've done. I want you now to take a few minutes to document your accomplishments. Did you lead a team recently or at some point in your career? Have you trained anyone? Did you develop a new idea? Did you save your company money? Did you improve a process? Did you win an award? Did you exceed goals or objectives? If you did, I want you to list what those were. List 3 to 5 from your current or previous job. And I want you to write it in a way that explains what the problem was, what you did, your action to solve that problem, and then what the result was. And once you've documented that, I want you to pick your top 1 or 2, and I want you to include that in your about section. Tip number 4, include rich media. LinkedIn gives you the option to include examples of your work. This could be blog posts you've written. It could be an article that's been published about you. It could be work that you've done that you want to highlight. If you have something like that, definitely include it, because it gives recruiters and hiring managers a way to see your work in action. Now let's talk about how to write an impactful experience section. This is where you highlight your expertise. And it's really important to do so because listing your current job makes you 16 times more discoverable in recruiter searches. Also, listing more than one job gets you 20 times more views. That's why it's really important to complete this section of your LinkedIn profile. As you do so, I have a couple of recommendations for you. You will be asked to put your job title, so go ahead and do that. And then I encourage you to write 1 or 2 sentences sharing an overview of your position and the company. That way, if the recruiter or hiring manager doesn't know or hasn't heard of that company, then it gives them an overview of what that company does. Then I encourage you to list 1 or 2 accomplishments that you've accomplished in that role, using the framework of listing the problem, the action that you did to solve that problem, and the result. And this should look familiar to you. And then as well, I want you to include any rich media, any examples of your work, articles written, or any testimonials if you've worked directly with clients. A couple more tips. I want you to focus mostly on your most current and most recent jobs. In those jobs, go ahead and list 3 to 4 bullets describing the position. And you can only have like 1 or 2 lines for older experiences. Ensure that you're using the proper tense. This is really important. Go ahead and use the present tense for your most current position and the past tense for past positions. If you're not sure how to structure your experience section, it's okay to actually look at other people's work, and so you can get a gauge of what they've done. For example, if you wanted to apply for a marketing role, then you can look at the role of someone who's above you. So find somebody on LinkedIn who is maybe a marketing manager, if that's the role that you're aiming for, and just see how they structure theirs. Look at a couple of people so you can get an understanding of how they do theirs, and then format yours in a similar way. But obviously ensuring that you're only including information and work that you have accomplished and that you can do. And then lastly, be sure to pull in keywords from your targeted job descriptions. So look at many, probably like 10 or 20 job descriptions and find similarities in words and skill sets that they're looking for that you have, and go ahead and include that in your experience section. If you're unemployed and searching, not to worry, there's a way for you to reflect that on your LinkedIn profile. First, put an end date to your last position. We want to make sure that we are being as clear and as honest as possible on LinkedIn. So if your previous role ended, go ahead and put that. Now then, add a new experience to describe the role that you're seeking. So you can basically create your own job description. And as you can see from the example there, under the company lists seeking new opportunities, and in this particular case, it's learning and organizational development. But for whatever career that you are interested in pursuing, briefly state that you're actively seeking that new opportunity. And I've listed some examples there to help you. So for example, you could say something like actively seeking new opportunities due to the pandemic and recent organizational restructuring, or open to new training and development opportunities, if that's specifically that area that you're into. Voluntarily left my previous role at Gallup with excellent stand-in. I have a strong record of success and solid recommendations. And then go ahead and describe your past accomplishments and capabilities utilizing keywords. As I've mentioned multiple times, utilizing keywords is truly the way for your profile to get picked up by recruiters. And then also include your contact information, whether it be your email address or phone number. That way the recruiter doesn't have to guess or try to find that information any other way. And another great thing that you can utilize that LinkedIn is really good and supportive on is posting that you are looking for a new opportunity on LinkedIn. Just like you would do on Facebook, where you would write a post, you can do the same with LinkedIn and just be honest with folks and just say, hey, I'm looking for a position in X industry. If anybody knows of anything, I'd be really appreciative. You can also add the hashtag such as job search or open to work. Additionally, you can search by now hiring on LinkedIn, and sometimes companies or different individuals, recruiters, will post a specific position that they're hiring for. It's really, really great because honestly, everybody wants to find an employee, and those who are looking for a job want to find a job. So be sure to utilize LinkedIn for that because it's a great resource. And as well, you can also use LinkedIn jobs to look for a job. There are many search engines out there, but while you're already on LinkedIn, go ahead and look at their jobs. Some additional tips: you can add an open to work frame on your LinkedIn profile, just like you see there. It lets all those in your network know that you are looking for a position. So if they know specifically what you're looking for, then they can help you find a position. Also recommend taking a skills assessment. If you have a specific skill in a specific type of technology or tool, you can take an assessment, and that way you can basically highlight to a recruiter that I'm already skilled in this, and they can verify it. And lastly, always give and get recommendations, either from your past coworker or your prior manager. And it's a give and take. So if you request one, make sure you give one. It's the nice thing to do. And it goes a long way. That way they can see, recruiters and managers can see who you are and what people think of what it's like to work with you. So I highly recommend those as some tips for you. And lastly, be sure to complete the education section of your profile. This is really critical. And again, that way the recruiter and hiring manager doesn't have to guess. And as well, they may be looking for people from a specific university if you are a recent graduate. So go ahead and include that. It's very easy to do. You can do it in a couple buttons. LinkedIn is great for finding a position and for having recruiters and managers find you. But it's also really good as a way to connect with individuals in your professional network or outside of your network. And it's also a great place to learn more about the companies that you're interested in, because many of them post on a regular basis. So once you've created your profile, the next step is to actually utilize LinkedIn and the many resources that it offers. And like I mentioned, connections. Connections are what matters. So strive to have at least 500 plus meaningful connections with people you've either worked with or others outside of your network. Because the more people you know, the more visible you will be for managers. And people tend to hire people that they know or at least know of. So the more people you're connected to, the more visible you will be, and the more people feel like they have a connection with you. When you do make connections with people, always send a personalized invitation. LinkedIn provides a generic one that you could definitely use, but a little note goes a long way. So definitely just say something like, "Hi, my name is Valentina," or "Hey, Jim, we met at this conference. So great to meet you. Love to connect here in LinkedIn." Something simple as that. So as I mentioned with LinkedIn, you can form connections with people. You can follow companies. So I encourage you, if there's a specific company that you would love to work for or that you're just fascinated by, go ahead and follow their CEO on LinkedIn or others that work there so you can stay up to date to what they're posting and what they're doing. And that way you can know what matters to them, what's top of mind for them, so that when you eventually schedule an informational interview with them, that way you have something to talk about and you can show the value that you bring and that you can show that you actually know about their company. So LinkedIn is a great way to learn more about a company in a just an unobtrusive way. So I highly recommend that. Also, LinkedIn is really great to just learn. You can learn about it, the specific industry. Many companies will post about it. They will have articles that they will share. So definitely use that to stay current on industry news and trends. LinkedIn provides a today's news and views. So you can use that to just get a quick glance as to what's top of mind for people in your industry. And be sure to join any professional groups in your industry. That way, again, you can stay connected and you can meet people and know what changes are up ahead. And just like with Facebook, you can, or Instagram, if you have that, you can like and update like somebody's posts. And I just recommend you do that. And when you do like it, don't just like it like everybody else does, but if there's something about that post that really spoke to you, just leave a comment and just say, "Wow, Betty, when you wrote that, that really connected me to this and that. And I just thank you for sharing." Something like that. And you don't have to be passive when you're on LinkedIn. You can go ahead and share your own articles and share your own posts about your own professional accomplishments or just things that you've learned that you want to share with your network. It goes both ways. And one thing I also really like about LinkedIn is that if there are people in your network that you have that have done something really kind to you or that have helped you in some way, you can send them a virtual kudos so that everybody else sees it. I think just any show of gratitude that we can each do goes a long way. So I just highly recommend that because the more we're kind to each other, then it's contagious. We all know that networking is important, but it can sometimes be hard to do. So if you are looking for a job or if you would just like to meet more people in general, I highly recommend utilizing something called informational interviews. And I've touched on this a little bit throughout this course, but I wanted to just provide a little bit more clarity as to what that is if you've never done one before. An informational interview is truly what it sounds like. Basically, you set up time to meet somebody that you don't know, or maybe is a friend of a friend, to learn more about what they do on a day-to-day basis. And for you to also share your skill sets and basically let them know you. And you don't necessarily ask them for a job, but you do share who you are so that if there is something available, they will know to think of you if something comes up. Recommend this route because research shows that 70 to 85% of jobs are filled through networking. That's a huge percentage and something to keep at the back of your mind. So if you want to get good at networking, and if you're not an extrovert, then I have a couple tips for you. First off, make a list of all the companies that you want to work for or work at and the job titles and positions that you'd like to have. Consider the company size and the role of the person that you would like to contact. You can keep a list of this in an Excel spreadsheet just to stay organized. And then start with people you know. There may be somebody that you know that can connect you to somebody else, and they can make that introduction for you. And then when you meet somebody, you can either have them connect you via email or via LinkedIn. Or if you don't know anybody that is in an industry that you're interested in, look at your alumni database. They usually have a lot of information as to the industry that a person is in. So it's a great resource that you can utilize. So once you find somebody, tell them why you want to connect with them. Why do you want to meet them? Is there a particular goal that you have that you want to have them provide clarity on? Do you admire their career path? Is there something about the industry that intrigues you? So make that clear in your email to them or when you first reach out to them. And then ask to just discuss the company, the industry, and your contact's career path. Make it feel more like a conversation than you're requesting a job interview, because that's not what this is intended to do. It's truly for you to learn more about the company in an informal way. And before you meet with them, do your research. Find out something of interest to them or that complements them. Not necessarily like you're complimenting them, but that you can bring up in a conversation in like a natural way. And do your research on the company. That way you have something to share and ask questions about during your time together. And these informational interviews can last anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. Really, it's just something quick and it's less awkward that way. And you could do it over Zoom or over the phone. And always follow up and thank them for their time. And really during this call, it's just your time to listen and to ask questions. So I really recommend that you utilize this. Most people are open to sharing about their career story and to helping someone else out. So definitely take advantage of it. And again, know what your goal is, know why you want to meet them. And if it's truly to learn more about the company to see if it's a good place that you want to apply for, then do that going in. If it's to learn more about how they got to where they are, then express that in your email to them. So informational interviews are a great way to go. So highly recommend that. Thank you for participating in today's session on optimizing your LinkedIn profile. We've talked about how to make a strong first impression through your profile picture, your headline, your background photo, and I hope you feel more confident in that process. We've also talked about how to create a marketable about an experience section, sharing about what you've done and the results of your actions. And lastly, we've talked about how to utilize LinkedIn beyond your job search, how to stay in the know of what's happening in your industry, and how to learn what's top of mind of the leaders of the organizations that you're interested in. I highly recommend my next course on interviewing with confidence. If you are ready to begin the interview process and you just want some tips on how to calm those nerves, I have a good course on that and it will really help you in the process. So I look forward to seeing you there. I want to leave you with one of my favorite Bible verses, and it's from Song of Solomon. You are altogether beautiful, my darling. There's no flaw in you. When we create a LinkedIn profile or any kind of way that we put ourselves out there, it can be very easy for us to start to compare ourselves to other people or just to begin to think negatively about ourselves. But God speaks so tenderly to us, and He reminds us that we are beautiful on the inside and on the outside. So I just encourage you to meditate on that as you work on your LinkedIn profile. Also want to share some homework with you, just to ask that you pick 2 aspects of your LinkedIn profile that we've talked about today, whether it be your profile photo that you want to update and add, put it in your headline using some of the tips I shared, or updating your summary and experience section. So just pick 2 aspects and go ahead and do that as you work on your profile. And then lastly, to memorize the scripture that we just talked about. And at the very end, just want to leave you with a quote in Latin from, it goes by Nunc Cepi, and essentially it means begin again. So if at any point you begin to feel discouraged, or maybe you create your profile and maybe you don't have recruiters knocking on your door right away, don't give up, just begin again. and know that I am here and that there are others in your network who want to support you and desire the best for you. So you got this, and I'll see you at the next course. God bless. Bye.